I used to be completely addicted to-do lists. It was actually kind of funny because my friends would say that Mina has to-do lists for her to-do list. Now, here's the thing, to-do lists are not bad. They're actually quite effective, and I'm actually going to touch on that. However, when I started creating time with energy versus like writing things down, oh my God, it was the biggest paradigm shift for me. I now feel like I live a decade in a day, and I'm able to do like lifetimes worth of enjoyment and pleasure and growth and manifestation in a year. So the number one thing I had to do to get myself out of the mindset of writing to-do lists was to first understand, why was I creating them in the first place? What was it about to-do lists that was making them so efficient in my life? And what I realized is that the to-do list, like writing things down and then checking it out, it mimics how the masculine experiences life. So when we're very much in our feminine energy and we feel like we're stuck, we're not really manifesting anything, it's kind of like a checkmate with the universe. You think that everything's just going to fall in your lap. It usually doesn't work that way, right? You need both the masculine and the feminine to create anything in life. And so I started writing to-do lists because the way masculine experiences life is when there's a task, there's this feeling of like burden. There's this feeling of like anxiety until that thing is done. And when they do something and they cross it off, whether it's just mentally or on a list, there's this feeling of like release. There's this feeling of, like relief is the best word to explain it. Release and relief. So with the masculine, they experience pleasure by release, right? Like by letting go. And this is manifested in their sexual pleasure as well, right? This is also manifested in how the masculine experiences self-care. It's by emptying out. So when I realized that, oh, I'm writing to-do lists because I'm perceiving the things I have to do as burdensome or as like annoyances. And so when I write it down and then I get to check it off, there is this feeling of relief. When I learned that, that was a game changer, because what happened next completely was a paradigm shift for me. So to explain to you why to-do lists are so useful for men and women, let me explain to you how I got out of that paradigm. So when we are thinking about doing something, like for example, let's say I have 4 things that I have to finish today. Every second that I spend thinking about that thing, oh, I have to get up and like cook. Oh, I have to like put away the dishes. Like every second that I think about it, my subconscious thinks that I'm actually doing it. So this is why we feel so tired and exhausted the more we think about doing things, because your subconscious thinks in images and stories, and it can't tell the difference between a real story and a made-up story. So if you, for example, let's say you had to go and cook and you thought about cooking 10 times, especially in a dreadful way, in a way where it like zaps your energy, to your subconscious, you already cooked 10 times and it was not a fun experience in your mind. So now by the time you actually get up and go and cook, it feels like you're doing it for the 11th time. So this is where to-do lists can be helpful. If you're the kind of person that like thinks about everything a million times before doing it and you feel so energetically drained because it seems like such a big drag to you, when you write it down, and if you stop thinking about it. So if you're using the to-do list as a mind up, and then you are not going to think about it, you're just going to do it, it's great. But if you're going to write something down and you're still going to keep thinking about it, it's not going to work for you because it's still draining your energy. I read this thing that the brain is like less than 2% of the body's mass, but uses up more than 25% of the energy. So the more you think about doing something, the more tired and drained you will become, especially if you are thinking about it with like negative energy. So when I realized this was such a paradigm shift, because what I shifted into is whatever I had to do, the only time I would think about it is when I would be actually doing it. And so I took back my power, I took back my energy, and I was able to get everything that I needed to do with so much more enjoyment and pleasure. And everything in my life changed because I started creating time, not by crossing things off, but by actually just doing them once. The one time that I was actually physically doing it would be the only time I did it. I would not be creating mental imagery or mental stories of doing it 10 times before I actually did the thing. So to recap, when my clients and students ask me, how are you getting so much done? How are you creating all of this content, these courses, running an 8-figure business? You're a mom, you're a wife, is because I noticed that they spend way more time thinking about the thing they have to do, and I just do it. I cannot tell you, this is the biggest paradigm shift. If you're only going to take one advice from this video, let it be that scientifically, the more you think about something, your subconscious can't tell the difference, and it creates this illusion of you having to do it a million times, and it really drains your energy, and it's just not worth it. So if you can stop thinking and just do the damn thing, you're going to have so much more success, and people will literally think that you are a unicorn, like you're omnipresent, like you're everywhere all at once. It's because the only time you engage with the thing is when you're already doing it. The second biggest paradigm shift for me when it comes to time is I stopped measuring time in hours, minutes, months, or years, or even decades. What I know now is that when you measure time, not in distance, but as a location, and you start making power moves, you change the vehicle that you're on, oh my God, time will bend at your will. This isn't some weird metaphysical concept. This is like actual reality and what I've actually used. To give you an example, when I was single and I was a single mom and my busy in my life, busy in my business, my studies and everything, I had a lot of friends that were also divorced or single, and every time they would talk about marriage, it was something that was like time bound for them. For some reason, they would say, oh, maybe I'll get married in a year, maybe I'll get married in 2 years, and they were seeing marriage as something that was time bound. But when my mom got diagnosed with ovarian cancer and she was given 2 months to live, and she told me that her last wish was to see me happily married and see my son like settled in, like, you know, with someone that was going to be there for us, and she was only given 2 months to live, I got married in 2 months. I mean, you could get married in a day. You could. So I'm not saying you have to get married in a day or 2 months, but the point is that why is it that time away? For example, if someone says you're gonna complete your degree in 4 years, is that an absolute truth? Like, could you take the accelerated pathway and complete it in 2 years? Can you do it in 1 year? Of course you can. So when you realize that something is like time away, then you waste time and then you like accelerate when you get closer to that time. So what I do in my life is I realize that it's whenever I decide that I'm going to do it. And so I see time as power moves and not as months or minutes. So for example, let's say that I decided that I wanted to achieve XYZ and my mind was telling me it will take me a year. If the minute that happens, I decide, actually, I'm going to do it today. I'm actually going to do it today. Or I might say, that's interesting. My mind thinks that that's going to take a year based on, I don't know what, maybe other people took a year, whatever, but I'm actually going to give myself 1 week. And what will happen then is I will find the wormholes. I will find the shortcuts. I will make it happen in that time because I'm giving that's the only time that I have. I have actually proven this in my life, that time for me is the minute that I make a decision and I give myself the shortest amount of time. That's the distance. Here's the truth, and I've shared this before with you guys. If someone was to ask me, Mina, how long does it take you to get to Dallas, Texas from Houston? Most people, without thinking about it, would say 3.5 hours because that's how long it takes us to drive there. But actually, you could walk there and it might take you, I don't know, 6 months. You could go on a bus and it might take you maybe 6 hours. You could go on a plane and maybe it takes you 30 minutes. You can go on a rocket ship and maybe it takes you 5 minutes. So notice that it's not that Dallas is always 3.5 hours away. It depends on the vehicle that you're on. So when I give myself a shorter time frame, I have to choose a faster vehicle. I have to be in a completely different paradigm than if I was giving myself years to complete a task. So the reason that my clients are able to have quantum success like I did is because of exactly what I'm sharing here with you. We get people to stop thinking about the damn thing and just making power moves, changing the vehicle that they're in. Think of my work as changing the vehicle. So you stop being on a horse and buggy and you get on a rocket ship. And then they start making power moves from a regulated state. That's the other thing I want to talk to you about. So when we are dysregulated, meaning we're thinking about the thing, how hard it's going to be, how you failed in the past, how you're going to screw it up, all of that stuff that gets you in a really hyped up, like dysregulated or freezy kind of mode. And then everything looks hard. That's why when you watch other people doing things with ease, you think, oh, they must be lying or they must be scammers, or because you cannot even imagine a reality where you were so regulated, God forbid, that things actually were easier for you, right? Like you actually showed up and enjoyed your life and did things with as much pleasure and enjoyment as you possibly can. And so they start thinking and perceiving and seeing reality differently. So let me give you another example of this. Hormones drastically distort our perception of reality. So if you are having the best day, you're in a great mood, you're doing everything you want to do, you're having like a really amazing day, and then you catch something on the news or you see something on social media that's quite disturbing. Now, whatever that thing was has flooded your system with cortisol. And depending on your nervous system, you're either going to react in a fight or flight mode, or you're going to react by going into freeze mode. Now your exact perception of your same day that you were having before is different. Now things are going to seem harder. You might be thinking, what's the point? You might be sad or distressed based on what you saw. So the hormones that flooded through your system by seeing that news story or that social media post has now shifted your entire paradigm, and the experiences in your day will now be different. So let's take this to relationships. There is this distortion that you have to get to know someone for 3 or 4 years before you marry them, right? You have to test drive them and they have to test drive you. The problem with this is most people that know someone for 3 or 4 years romantically will be sleeping with that person. The minute that you sleep with someone or even like touch them in a romantic way, certain hormones start flooding through your system and their system. So now your perception of reality has shifted, because the way that nature had it, by the time you were mating with someone, chances were you were going to there was going to be a baby from that, right? So it served humanity to be really cautious before you slept with someone, but not so cautious afterwards, because now it's better for the both of you and for the baby. It's better for the baby actually if you just somehow got along. So it's better for humanity if you suddenly do not notice all of their red flags and try to make it work so that there's more chances of the baby surviving. That's just how nature worked, right? So if you spend 3 or 4 years getting to know someone, but you're sleeping with them, kissing them, touching them, you're pair bonding with them, you're actually not really getting to know them. You already think you know them based on the hormones that have flooded your system. So when my clients get proposed to on the 6th date, get married within months, right? It's because they're not flooding their system with these hormones and they're actually getting to know someone, like seriously getting to know someone without that hormonal imbalance, right? That hormonal stuff running the show. So the things that you think you're going to get to know him for in 4 or 5 years, you get to know him really in a few months, because you're looking from a clean slate. You're checking up on things. You're looking at his documents. You're looking at his track record, his work record, his parents. You're looking at his DNA. Like, you're looking at serious things that are going to give you so much more information than pretending like you're playing house, flooding your system and his system with hormones, and then wondering why it all failed. We now have research in the Western world of what the Eastern culture has known all along, is that when you move in with someone, when you sleep with someone, when you date someone with a long time, you're actually more likely to end up not with that person or divorced, right? Like, we have the research now that can't deny it. It goes back to human nature. It goes back to our evolutionary history. So it's not the time, it's the energy within that time. It's what are you doing with that time. So my clients are able to travel so much more distance in the 6 date, 7 date, in the 6 months that they're dating, versus someone that's sleeping with someone else, for 6 years, and they think they're getting to know the person. No, your hormones are going to lie to you at that point. I'm noticing that some women are doing that where they're getting engaged now because they heard me talking about don't sleep with a man before getting married. So they're getting engaged and then they start sleeping with him and the same problem occurs. Now they're in so much confusion. They can't tell the difference between actual green flags versus red flags. So it's now you just have a ring, but you're doing the same thing you would have done if you were just dating him. And so they are engaged now indefinitely in so much confusion because they didn't understand the root cause of what I'm saying. And they're just trying to hack the system in some way. This is why elite performers, people that want to do big things in their life, they want to unlock the most pleasure, the most prosperity, the most play, the most everything, provision, all the things. They get themselves in the room through coaching and mentorship of people that have already collapsed time. Someone commented on my video a few days ago saying, I don't hire coaches, I just follow my instincts. And I was like, that's so amazing, because that's what squirrels do. That's what raccoons do, right? They don't hire coaches, they just follow their instincts. And if I wanted to be at the same level of consciousness as a squirrel, that's exactly what I would do. Not hire coaches or mentors and just follow my natural instincts, which are animal-based. However, I do not want to live my life like a squirrel or a raccoon does. I want to live my life with the most impact, with the most pleasure, with the most enjoyment, with the most purpose, passion. And so because of that, I put myself in the rooms with teachers and mentors and coaches that have collapsed time. Now, what they've learned in 40, 50, 60 years, I get to download through their experiences, through their coaching, and I get to collapse even more time. This is why every generation has better technology, better resources, better access to intelligence and consciousness, is because they stand on the shoulder of giants. So obviously coaching and mentorship is not for everyone. Most people do want to live like squirrels, right? They just want to eat whatever they want to eat. They just want to be at the mercy of their animalistic instincts, and that will get them a certain level of life. But that's not how I want to live. That's not how my clients want to live. We want to have so much more purpose and passion on this planet. So let me know if you found this useful and what your key takeaways were, and I will see you in the next one.